Okay, beta. So first of all, we should know the definition of proteins. What are proteins is the first part of question. So proteins are nothing but, see, these are the most abundant organic molecules of living system. So what are proteins made up of? Proteins are made up of polypeptide chain of amino acids, and these are forming the fundamental basis of our structure. That means our muscles, our skin, bone, hair, nails, everything is made up of protein. That means it is forming the structural component of our body. Okay, so after writing the definition, now we are asked like structure of protein. Okay, so basically we know proteins are nothing but those are polypeptide chains of amino acids, isn't it? We know this fact pretty well. Mm, so after this, see structure of protein. This is a part of SNO. So proteins are polymers of L alpha amino acids. The structure of protein is rather complex. So here structures are shown. Okay, so basically when you go to proteins, before that I want you to know like between amino acids and amino acids we have peptide bonds. And how are these peptide bonds? There is a small reaction which is shown beta, which we should know before we start. Mm, see, this is one amino acid, this is one more amino acid, formation of peptide bond. I think in the form, as we proceed we will see. Yes, beta, this is. See, this is one amino acid like glycine, it can be serine. So here we have carboxy group and here we have amino group. So the carboxy group, oxygen and two hydrogen molecules from amino group, they are just released and it leads to the formation of peptide bond CONH. So this is dipeptide. So like that we have a length of polypeptide chain which is taking part in the formation of a protein. Now based on how much amount of coiling is taking place, they are classified as primary, okay, secondary, tertiary and quaternary. Primary means it's a straight chain where we have so many amino acids which are linked together by peptide bonds. So in order to accommodate in a small place, they are just folded like this beta, which is called as secondary structure. Suppose if these folds are further folded, okay, then it is called as tertiary. Further small area, if all the amino acids are like taking a very small area, see if you just uncoil such a big protein chain is there, in fact amino acid like polypeptide chain is there, but in fact to accommodate themselves in a very small space, you will see this coiling will take place. Okay, that is, it leads to the formation of different structures like primary, secondary, tertiary and quaternary. Now let us elaborate. So primary is linear sequence. Linear is in line, in straight line. Amino acids, they are forming the backbone of proteins, nothing but polypeptide. Secondary structure, see, the spatial arrangement of protein is formed by twisting of polypeptide chain, as you can see here. Tertiary is three-dimensional, 3D picture. Okay, that means it has further got coiled. Okay, so quaternary is some of the proteins are composed of two or more polypeptide chains referred to as subunits. Okay, so the spatial arrangements of these subunits, that means one protein is having more than one polypeptide chain and they are arranged in such a way that it will lead to the formation of quaternary structure. Okay, the structural hierarchy of proteins is comparable with the structure of building. Nothing but, see, like if you want to construct a building, you will all keep bricks, and in between the bricks, cement is there, isn't it? Similarly, in order to understand polypeptide chain, we have amino acids, and in between amino acids, we have polypeptide chain. So generally, the protein is made up of more than 50 amino acids. Do you remember what is it if it is less than 10 amino acids? Called as biologically active peptide, isn't it?
Ma'am, you're on mute, ma'am.
I'm sorry, sorry, sorry. Okay, beta. See, primary structure of protein, I told you genetic code. We have already discussed when we were doing translation, isn't it? The genetic code will be deciding which amino acid has to come in the sequence for the formation of proteins, isn't it? So that is during transcription it will be decided, and during translation tRNA will bring the particular amino acid and it will lead to the formation of polypeptide chain. So between the amino acid, we have formation of peptide bond. Okay. So when you just write peptide bonds, now see naming is given here. The heading writing of peptide structures. How do we write? Suppose this is polypeptide chain, which is usually more than 50 amino acids for a protein. See, one end of this polypeptide chain is amino terminus and the other end is carboxy terminus, and between amino acids we have peptide bonds. Okay, instead of writing names it becomes difficult, so that we have the union of biochemists who have decided instead of writing glutamate we can write E, instead of writing cysteine we can write C, instead of writing glycine we can write G. Okay, this is one letter symbol representation. Or sometimes ECG may become difficult. Okay, because of which, because glycine also starts with G, glutamate also starts with G, so there may be some confusion. To avoid that, three letters are used. Like for glutamate it can be GLU, for cysteine CYS, and for glycine GLY. Okay, and the bonds which we are seeing in between them, you call it as glutamyl, cystinyl, and the last one remains the same, glycine. Okay, so that is nomenclature. Okay, writing of peptide structure. So this whole paragraph will help you understand only when you look at this 4.6. Naming and representation is generally shown here, beta. Okay, then so now see here, uh, insulin is a protein, growth hormone is a protein, many substances in our body, even clotting factors, most of them are proteins, isn't it? Hormones are proteins, enzymes are proteins. And it's not like every time all the human beings are gifted with everything. For example, some people may have deficiency of insulin. So how to synthesize insulin in the lab? We should know the order and sequence of amino acids. So how to know the order and sequence of amino acids? We should break the normal natural existing protein in sequence, in order, to determine which amino acid has occupied the first position, second position, third position, fourth position, and so on. So what are the various techniques which we usually use to synthesize a protein? Ritika, you were very regular to my classes, beta. We have one artificial technique and we have one natural technique to synthesize proteins in the lab and also in vivo. What are those techniques, beta? Ritika?
Uh,
Recombinant DNA technology.
I'll,
This we can use to synthesize natural proteins by making use of living organisms like bacteria, isn't it? And what is the machine we use in order to synthesize these proteins in the lab, in vitro? PCR, isn't it?
PCR.
Polymerase chain reaction. So whether you do in vitro or whether you do in vivo, the basic thing is we should know the sequence of amino acid, which is coming first, second, third, and so on. Okay. So in order to check that, we have certain techniques. Okay. So determination of amino acid composition in the protein. We can just mix a particular protein with a protease mixture, which is nothing but proteolytic enzymes that will completely hydrolyze the proteins. Then we will come to know what are the amino acids which the protein is made up of. Okay, we have many other techniques also which will help us to just separate. Chromatography is one more technique. Okay, so we can make use of many other techniques like degradation of protein into small fragments. Okay, by treating these proteins with urea or guanidine hydrochloride, Many chemical substances like diazenyl chloride can also be used to break the proteins into its individual amino acid components. Okay, beta. There is enzymatic cleavage. Okay, chemical cleavage where you can use certain chemical substances like cyanogen bromide. Okay, there is an automatic machine also which is called as sequenator, which will read the sequence of amino acids which are present in the proteins. Okay, amino acid sequence is very important. Which amino acid is coming first, second, third, and so on. We can actually treat these proteins with Sanger's reagent also, which will also help us to know the sequence or order of the amino acids in a particular protein. So all these are different techniques, beta. You can just go through and whichever you find easy, choose 3 to 4 and elaborate them. Then that was all about primary structure. Primary structure is, I told you, it is a linear structure without any folding like this. Secondary structure is showing the coil, it is twisting. Okay, so secondary structure, see, it is just coiling and it is leading to the formation of helix. You can see this one. This is all polypeptide chain which is coiling on itself, and between these coils we have different types of bonds like hydrogen bonds. Okay, we have van der Waal forces. We have different things beta which are connecting here. Okay, so these are alpha chains, alpha helix. Okay, we have one more this type of arrangement also for coiling of proteins. This is beta sheet. This is alpha helix and this arrangement is beta sheet. So here we have amino acid, amino acid, amino acid, and between the two chains of amino acids again we are shown hydrogen bonds. Okay, so this is nothing but magic of all bonds which is helping to keep the coil in position and not letting the coil to disrupt or break, because the purpose of this coiling is to accommodate protein in a small space. Okay, beta. So like that, that is for secondary. Tertiary structure, again number of bonds will increase. Okay, it's a three-dimensional structure. Okay, we have bonds different. What are those, beta? Apart from hydrogen bonds, we also have now sulfide bonds, ionic interactions, okay, electrostatic bonds, hydrophobic interactions. So that means number of bonds have increased, because of which 3D picture is now set up for proteins, which is tertiary structure. So quaternary means still coiling has increased and number of bonds have increased. So what are the various bonds we see? Non-covalent bonds, hydrogen bonds, hydrophobic interactions. Okay, all these are the bonds which are responsible for different arrangement of these protein structures. Okay, it's very important essay which was not covered till now. So I have chosen this paper. Okay, we have seen the definition, we have seen the structure, primary, secondary, tertiary, and quaternary. Then we will see the denaturation. What is denaturation? It comes under the properties of proteins. Denaturation means the structural organization of proteins is disrupted. Okay, see here. Disorganization of native protein structure is denaturation. So that means there is a loss of secondary, tertiary, and quaternary structure of protein. This involves change in physical, chemical, and biological properties of protein molecules. Better. Okay. So what are the agents we can use to bring about denaturation? We can use physical agents like heat, violent shaking, X-rays, and UV rays. Chemical agents, acid, alkalis, organic solvents. All these to disrupt secondary, tertiary, and quaternary structure of proteins. Okay, the normal natural organization of protein is no more present. Okay, the native helical structure of protein is lost. Primary structure of protein with peptide linkage remains intact. Protein loses its biological activity. That means it can no more work. Okay, like that. So coagulation is one of the example. Beta, see, if you allow the blood to just if you keep it outside, it becomes a clot. Again, it cannot be reverted back. Something like that. That's what is denaturation. Okay. Your egg white is albumin. If you just make it into omelette, that is denaturation. That means structural organization of protein is lost. Okay. So that is denaturation. Irreversible usually. Omelette can be prepared from an egg, but reversal is not possible. That is one best example of denaturation beta. Okay. Iron metabolism. What are the sources of iron, Hema? Simple question. Ritika, what are the sources,
Uh,
beta, of iron?
Green leafy vegetables.
Yeah. So many non-vegetarian sources, in fact, are rich beta in liver and all. Okay, they are best sources. Okay. Jaggery, isn't it? See.
Yes, ma'am.
Ah, rich sources: organ meat, liver, heart, kidney. Good sources: leafy vegetables, pulses, cereals, fish, apples, dried fruits. Poor sources: milk, wheat, and polished rice. Okay. So how much do we require per day? Adult man 10 milligrams per day. Menstruating women 18 milligrams. Pregnant and lactating women 40 milligrams per day. Absorption, anything, whether it is vitamins or minerals, always remember they are all absorbed in the small intestine, transported through blood circulation, and they are generally stored in the liver. As we have seen yesterday, vitamin A. Same thing here also, beta. Okay. Then, what are the various functions of this iron beta? See, iron is present in hemoglobin, so it's very important for the transport of respiratory gases, oxygen and carbon dioxide. It is present in the enzymes like cytochromes. Do you remember they are involved in biological oxidation chapter? Cytochrome A, B. Yesterday we have studied inhibitors of electron transport chain. So those cytochromes composition, it is containing iron. Peroxidases, lysosomal enzymes, they also contain iron. They are actually important for phagocytosis. Okay. So iron is very very important for the maintenance of our immunity, immunocompetence of the body. Okay, beta. Then, what are the factors which promote iron absorption? Acidity, vitamin C, ascorbic acid, it will promote. Okay, that's the reason. In case of anemic patient, you give iron along with vitamin C. The iron absorption will be faster, and the anemia can be treated very fast. Okay, then. So the absorption will increase at least 2 to 10 times than that of normal. Then small peptides, amino acids also favor iron uptake. Phytate and oxalate, they are found in the plants and they actually interfere with iron absorption. Okay. So diet with high phosphate content also will disturb. It will not allow iron absorption. So those many are like enough. Then see transport purpose. There is a flow chart we have seen many times. That flow chart, this one is very very important beta. Absorption, transport and storage. So suppose you are taking the green leafy vegetables, jaggery, plant source or animal source, whatever the food iron, it is in the presence of HCl and organic acids, it is converted to ferric form, then it is converted to ferrous form. Ferrous is always transport form. From the lumen of GIT, it is moving to mucosal cells. From mucosal cells, it is entering into the plasma, and thereby it is entering into the tissues. Finally, it is stored in the ferric form. Liver in the form of ferritin and hemosiderin. In the bone marrow, in the form of hemoglobin. Muscle, myoglobin. Other tissues, cytochromes and non-heme iron. Okay, I want you to learn thoroughly this flowchart here in order to remember and understand the transport, absorption and storage of iron. Sources, requirements, absorption, transport, functions. What happens if there is any deficiency of iron? Iron deficiency anemia is quite popular, isn't it?
Anemia.
Yeah, beta, very good. Anemia. Okay, iron deficiency, anemia. The RBC size becomes very small and becomes very pale. You call it as microcytic hypochromic anemia. Okay. So suppose if there is excessive iron in the body, it is leading to a condition which is called as hemosiderosis beta. People who repeatedly take blood transfusion over years, in such people there will be iron overload because of the breakdown of RBC repeatedly. Hemochromatosis, iron is directly deposited in the tissues like liver, spleen, pancreas. Okay, all organs also will become brown in color. It's actually called as bronze diabetes. That means pancreas are not functioning because of excessive deposition of iron. That's what is bronze diabetes. Okay, beta. Okay. What is the role of kidney in regulation of acid base balance? Ritika, do you remember anything, beta? How do the how kidneys are?
No, ma'am.
What are the various mechanisms? Okay. So acid base balance, kidney is playing a major role. Now let us see how does it work. See, renal mechanism. See, what is acid base balance? Suppose if acidity is increasing in the blood, the bicarbonate is added to the blood and it is neutralized. The blood pH is brought back to 7.4. Similarly, if alkalinity is increasing, the few hydrogen ions are added in the blood and again the blood pH is brought back to normal, that is 7.4. So we have four different mechanisms with through kidney which actually play a major role in regulation of pH. Excretion of hydrogen ion, reabsorption of bicarbonate, excretion of titratable acid, excretion of ammonium ions. Everything is explained nicely in the form of diagrams. See here, this is tubular cell of nephron. Think it is proximal convoluted tubule. This is the lumen of Paceti, proximal convoluted tubule. Around the nephron, if you remember, we have vasa recta. The capillary loop around the nephron is vasa recta, isn't it? Now see here what is happening in the lumen of nephron. So we have like basically inside the tubular cell, you should start with this universal formula which always comes during our classes, like carbon dioxide combines with water in the presence of carbonic anhydrase to form H2CO3. H2CO3 is again split into hydrogen plus bicarbonate. Okay, hydrogen ion is entering into the lumen and bicarbonate is entering into the blood. So that means bicarbonate is saved in the blood in the form of alkali reserve. Hydrogen, which is acid, it is excreted in the urine. It combines with some base, it forms salt and it is excreted in urine. That is excretion of hydrogen ions. Second mechanism is reabsorption of bicarbonate. In fact, here only it is shown reabsorption of bicarbonate. But in fact, again he has drawn here to show the reabsorption of bicarbonate. Again start with the same H2O, CO2, H2CO3, bicarbonate is coming here. Hydrogen, there you saw just B, instead B you are now writing HCO3 leading to the formation of H2CO3. Okay, beta? Like that. What is the third mechanism? Excretion of titratable acids, excretable acids. So what are the excretable? Now this one better, titratable acids. Now again start with this same thing inside the tubular cell. CO2, H2O, carbonic anhydrase, this bicarbonate is coming back and hydrogen now it is combining with sodium hydrogen phosphate, NaHPO4. When it combines with H, NaH2PO4, which is a salt, and it is excreted. pH, which was initially 7.4 in the lumen of nephron, now urine is becoming acidic. Urine pH is falling down to 4.5. That means urine is becoming acidic and alkalinity is developed in the blood. Last is excretion of ammonium ions. Again, you just refer to this nice picture, beta. Start with this CO2, H2O, H2CO3 and all. The sodium
etc.
bicarbonate is reabsorbed in the blood, alkali reserve. This hydrogen now it is combining with NH3, ammonium. Okay, salt, this is NH4 which is excreted in the urine. So these are the four mechanisms through which kidney is helping in the regulation of pH of blood. Is that clear? Hema, Ritika? Purine synthesis.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Now we will see purine synthesis better. De novo purine synthesis. What is that, beta? This we have discussed, of course, but it will be a revision. I'm covering everything. Nucleotide metabolism, 387. See here, beta. De novo purine synthesis is nothing but salvage pathway. We should talk about how adenine, guanine, and inosine are synthesized. Adenine, in the presence of adenine phosphoribosyl transferase. Phosphoribosyl pyrophosphate is now converted to high energy phosphate. So adenine is converted to AMP, guanine is converted to GMP, hypoxanthine is converted to IMP. That's it, beta. Very small. What are the types of RNA and their functions? mRNA, tRNA, and rRNA, isn't it? What is the function of mRNA? mRNA is actually undergoing, it is synthesized by the mechanism of transcription. It brings the information from the nucleus into the cytoplasm. tRNA is transport form of RNA, isn't it? Which carries the amino acid to the site of protein synthesis. Ribosomal RNA is rRNA which is present inside the ribosomes, which holds the mRNA in position so that tRNA brings the amino acid and helps in the formation of polypeptide chain. Like that, we have three basic types of RNAs, beta. See, mRNA, tRNA, rRNA. mRNA 5 to 10%. Our cell comprises of tRNA 10 to 20%, rRNA is 50 to 80%. It is present inside the ribosomes, the largest one. Okay, so that is structure of RNA. This is pentose. We know it is made up of, like yesterday we have seen the importance of HMP shunt, formation of pentoses. Okay, which means it has 5 carbon units, 5 carbon things. Okay, so RNA contains pyrimidine, uracil in place of thymine. It is a single-stranded molecule. Chargaff's rule: due to single-stranded nature, ATGC, that binding mechanism is not there. Okay, it is very much sensitive to alkali. Whenever it is exposed to alkali, it breaks. Okay, RNA can be identified by making use of this coloring agent. What is that? Orsinol. Okay, due to the presence of ribose, we can identify. Okay, beta. So, apart from mRNA, tRNA, and rRNA, you also just give the list of heterogeneous nuclear RNA, small nuclear RNA, nucleolar RNA, cytoplasmic, and transfer messenger RNA, where they are present and what are their functions. tRNA basically is very, very important, and you should draw this structure. This model is clover leaf model. Okay, so one end is 3 prime end, the other end is 5 prime end. At 3 prime end we have this sequence of amino acids ACC. Okay, this is anticodon site. Okay, Mechanism of action of steroid hormones. Do you remember anything, Ritika? Emma missed few classes, that's why I'm not asking her. After few classes, again I'll start asking him also. Mode of action,
Uh,
yes, better. Steroid hormones. Whatever you know, right or wrong, you tell me, no problem. Better.
ma'am, by receptors
Yeah, very good, correct, 100% correct. Where do you find these receptors?
on the cell membrane.
Always there or anywhere else? They can be present in the nucleus
In the
also.
cytoplasm also.
Very good. Cytoplasm, excellent. In the
Ah,
nucleus, very good. See, mechanism of action of steroid hormones. As Ritika told us, see, this is one cell. In order to receive the hormone, the receptors may be present on cell membrane, they may be present in the cytoplasm, or they may be present on the surface of nucleus, nuclear membrane. So once the hormone comes and binds with the receptor, it enters into the nucleoplasm. Once it enters into the nucleoplasm, it will allow for transcription. That is nothing but the formation of mRNA. From mRNA, we will see translation taking place and leading to the formation of specific protein, which will show the biological response. This is how the steroid hormones act. This is nothing but
university,
the
ma'am.
mechanism of action of steroid hormones. Immunoglobulin E. This also we have studied, no, Ritika? I gave you information
Uh,
about all
the
plasma.
table. There's a table, ma'am.
Yes, yes, beta, 100%. Very good. Can you name the different immunoglobulins?
A game D.
Very good. Kindly elaborate it.
IgG, IgA, IgM, IgE, IgD.
Okay, okay. Okay, but I'm just checking if this is in this chapter. Which chapter is that, beta? Tissue proteins, body fluids.
I think plasma
Plasma
proteins
proteins,
are.
no? Can you tell me the page number?
Yes, ma'am. I think plasma. I'll check, ma'am.
Yeah. Yeah, 182.
Page 188, ma'am.
Okay. Thank you, beta. See, first he is asking us the structure of immunoglobulin, right? So for which you are supposed to draw this picture. It has two heavy chains like this and it has two light chains like this. So heavy chains, we have the sulfide, 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 sulfide bonds, light chains also. So in between heavy and light chains also, we have disulfide bonds. Okay, just draw this picture and which immunoglobulin he is asking us now? IgE, right?
E.
Okay, so IgE, see, only this one he is asking. So heavy chain is epsilon, long chains are like light chains are kappa or lambda. The molecular formula is something like this: epsilon 2, K2, epsilon 2, lambda 2, and the molecular weight is 1,90,000. How much percentage of carbohydrate is there? 12. So serum concentration is 0.02 to 0.05. And this immunoglobulin is responsible for cell humoral immunity. That means killing of microorganism by release of antibodies, that is IgE, and it releases histamine to kill the microorganisms. Same thing is elaborated here also, beta.
Magnum.
IgE. Okay, this much only. Creatinine clearance. Emma, do you remember the formula? Because I'm sure Ritika will definitely tell. because it has come unlimited times.
No, ma'am, I don't remember.
Okay, okay. Ritika, do you remember beta?
Was it something like UV by P?
Ah, yes, beta, of course. C is equal to U into V by P. What is the importance, beta? 453.
Our kidney functioning, it shows our kidney functioning because creatinine is completely, I mean, it's a non-threshold substance, so it has to be excreted.
Which has to be excreted. Very good, very good. So it will help us to assess the renal function. Okay. So
Yes, ma'am.
453, right? Organ function test.